If this podcast signed for Chelsea, we'd be on a 10-year contract, about to embark on the first of 16 loan spells to various clubs, each slightly less dodgy than the last, until one day, finally, the latest manager learned our name before agreeing our sale to Newcastle or another arm of the Saudi Public Investment Fund. It's pure Roy of the Rovers stuff, and it's the reason we all love football. Coomsey here loves Chelsea, and he's welcome on the podcast. Andy and Murph are with us too. We need to talk first about Chelsea being world champions. So without dwelling too much on your defeat last night or 2 nights ago to Bayern Munich, how does that feel? Because you were in the States for that monsoon and weird tournament that somehow featured Donald Trump at the end. How was that?
It started off as a big birthday this year, so it arranged to go out. And to tell you the truth, wasn't that arsed about watching football in the States with Americans. I couldn't, the whole go Chelsea, go soccer thing just didn't really impress me. I had quite a few mates who went out for the group stages, and we'd already planned up ahead to go out for the semis and the final, whatever. And in the end, we just went to the final. We went out, we got to Philly for the quarters, about halfway through the game. Then we went up to Boston when the semis were on, and then down to the final. So all the lads had chipped in for my birthday, so Remo contributed to my final ticket, which was very nice of him. That's it. So cheers to him and all the lads. But yeah, we just didn't take it serious, really. As you got further into the tournament, then yeah, you got a bit more home here, you heard a bit more about it. But the final really capped it off. That yeah, great. You heard. We just looked at the other way, going, if the Scousers had won it, you'd never hear the bloody last of it for years to come. So we're going, we may as well milk it.
And you married to a Scouser, you're allowed to say that.
I am, yes, yeah. You've done your digging, yeah. So when it comes down to match days or anything like that, we don't talk football.
Did you get involved in pool parties and were the cheerleaders? And,
no.
And so was it like spring break for you?
No. We did all that. It was hard going. 10 days on the piss, out till 3-4 o'clock every morning is hard going. No, we went. Like I said, we had a good time up in Boston. Was good. Went and watched a bit of baseball. Philly, Atlantic City for a bit of gambling. Yeah, it was a good old trip. But I think with the tournament, it will turn into, as long as they keep it every 4 years, it will turn into it's a money spinner, isn't it? We made, was it 100 million or something like that, just by rocking up. Yeah, we were lucky to get on through and get to the later stages, but there's nothing to be stiffed at. So they've turned around, that 100 million went straight back into buying another couple of players to add to the 50-plus squad or whatever we've got. You can see it going on in the next. It was ridiculous playing it in the States for a start. How can you play a game? I think we played in Philly, one of the group games, 12 o'clock on a Friday dinner time, and it was like 97 degrees.
Wi-Fi's gone down.
They're giving, and they're giving tickets away to, if you're a student, you can have 4 for $12 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, but then you can connect the Mac to your phone.
Just a crazy tournament, anyway. But you can see it's going to turn into a big money spinner, and it's going to be if they couldn't do it, if you think about it, when they tried to do the European League and all that nonsense, they're not going to get anywhere with that. So they're going, well, with this Club World Cup, they've got what they want. They've got the biggest teams in Europe in it, and the Brazilians are really take it seriously and bring all the crowds, but I can see in the future it's going to be a right money spinner.
It's cynical of you to think that money would be talking in football. You mentioned all those players you've got, though, and one of them's Garnacho. How's that working out so far?
Well, I think on Saturday when he come on, he was at fault for the second goal. But I don't know too early. But with the thing I worry about, we've got rid of one stroppy player in Mandzukic and then brought in Garnacho. And he's one of these players that, when we after him, we bought him. I thought, oh yeah, good, because I've only seen him play against Chelsea. I've not really watched him. I've seen the highlights and the clips, and I'm just worried that he's one of these typical players you see play against your team when you think, God, he's shit at him. Oh, really like him. And then you guys watch him week in, week out. And I don't know, what's your thoughts on him?
Andy?
Well, to us, for a long time, we just saw him as an impact player. We only ever saw him for the last 20 minutes, half an hour. And then, he did plenty of good things. And then everybody's saying, he's got to be given a chance, give him a chance. Then he gets an hour, and then he starts a game, So it's, but predominantly for us, he was a late impact player. The opposing time, the opposing teams are getting tired, so he's going to come in for that, So
yeah, Sancho was meant to be another impact player, wasn't he?
I don't think we could give you the 5 million back quick enough, could we?
Yeah. Right, Murph's back then. I see the Cornbrook Wi-Fi is doing its usual tricks. We've dealt with Garnacho and we've dealt with Sancho. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Other questions for Coomsey, lads, about Chelsea?
Is a club now, what do we think? Are they just a money laundering outfit now? Is it just a front for shifting money about with these long-term transfer years on them?
It is, and I'm, totally anti the whole, you're the same, American owners, his whole strategy. Yeah, we knew where we were with Abramovich. Even though he sacked, a lot of managers, we wanted to be there for 10, 15 years. We couldn't really question him because he'd get rid of somebody else would come in and you'd carry on winning trophies, which is what the fans want. But with Bowley and I don't know, I can't see it being sustainable in that we're buying up lots of good young talent, putting it on big 8-year contracts or whatever. But if you look down the line, if you look at it 10, 12 years time, who'd want to come to, if you're a young player, apart from it being you want the money, why would you come? Because you're going to be brought into Chelsea, you're going to be part of a big squad. You might be shipped out to one of our sort of feeder clubs and then you'd be sold off for 20, 30 million for a nice little profit. Thank you very much. And I just think if I was an advisor or it was my lad or something like that, I wouldn't want them going there. If it comes just to pure greed and money, of course you would. Yeah, you'd take the 8-year contract and your lad's laughing. But if you're a pure footballist, a purist of football, then I can't see it lasting.
What was Garnacho's contract? I missed that when he went over there. How many years is that?
I'm not sure
years.
What he got for, probably. Yeah.
He's got longer than Norman Stanley Fletcher, he has.
But I'm not sure what was, whether it's 5.
I think it was
there's loads of podcasts who deal with
years.
that shit.
7 was it? Oh,
yeah.
It could have
And
been,
what did we get for him? 40 million?
Something like that.
It was 60. It was something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think what it was in.
Don't worry about it. There'll definitely be like a Transfer Cranks
there'll be
podcast that you can consult.
Yeah.
Somebody else will do this better than us, but their first game will have been 5 minutes ago, so don't worry about it.
It's just ludicrous. And like I said, we struggle to keep up with who we got in the bloody squad and pronouncing half the names. So no. They're not for me, and like I said, it's the whole thing for the fans. They don't give a shit about the fans. They don't. They're already with season tickets, and they're making it harder. And I suppose we were a bit luckier than you over the last few years. You've got the ballot to get your ticket for away match. We were pretty, because you've had season ticket for years and you got the points and you know the system. We were pretty nailed on for getting away tickets, tickets in Europe and all that. But now they've really tightened up. Even at home, somebody's got to buy a 15 quid membership just for me to be able to transfer them a ticket. That doesn't get them anything else. They've got to pay 65 quid if they want to try getting in you are now 50,000 in the queue to get a ticket.
15 quid is cheap, Coomsey, because I think I start at 25 quid and then it's 40, and I think there's some sort of premier one at 60, is he, Murph? I'm not sure.
The thing is, you may remember about 20, 30 years ago, Arsenal and West Ham fans kicked up royally about this. It was a similar thing, you called it the Arsenal-West Ham bond, and they got the thing rescinded at the time. But it was having like sit-ins and all kinds of protests at Upton Park and at Highbury. They got the thing rescinded. It sounds a similar thing is now going on through the back door at both Stamford Bridge and Old Trafford.
Yeah. It's just like I said. I know people now that have started to go watch their local teams. It's just too much grief for watching the team they've really loved and supported for sort of 40, 50 years. Are starting to turn their back on it, and the atmosphere at the bridge now. It used to be you'd probably get United, Liverpool, if they were in the Champions League, Barcelona, some of that. It would be rocking, the same as Old Trafford would. It'd be great. Now those games are starting to get fewer. The atmosphere is starting to get worse. The Tottenham game for us was always a great atmosphere, absolute hatred, just raises the levels in the place. And even the last couple of years, that started getting a bit, tepid.
Coomsey, may I ask you about Stamford Bridge? Because I remember Stamford Bridge when I was younger, and you'd be about like, you felt like you was miles away from the pitch.
For the dog track.
You had a dog track down the side, and it was also open to the elements. So when it rained, it really rained. But my question is, the ground is more compact now; it's more boxed in. Do you think the atmosphere was better in those days when the ground was more of an oval shape, or do you think it's better now?
I think it's probably better if you had the same, because if you think back of them days, you were in the you were in the way bit with the dog track in the north stand. You had all the hoolies in gate 13 or whatever right up next year, and even when they changed the ground at one stage, I'm Matthew Harding lower. The away fans were to the left of us, and that always made it a good atmosphere. Now they've moved it up to the shed end, and the shed end's not what the shed end was, sort of for it's quite a few day trippers, etc. up there. So so it could be. I'd think because the sound would probably be better because it's more enclosed and it's smaller. But I just think it's today's fan. And I sit pretty much all the people around I've sat with for the last 20, 25 years, but even that started to get a bit diluted now.
And what are you thinking about the latest charges? I mean, I know they got Chelsea until tomorrow to respond to these, I think, 74 charges that have been laid against them. What's the feeling with both you and your friends around you in the ground about it?
To be honest, we don't take a lot of notice about it because I'm sure in today's, you look at City, how long's that been dragging on with the 115? Money talks. So I'm sure, and I think they're all right with it because they flagged up that these charges, don't they, relate to the Abramovich era anyway. So it's like, oh, we're good boys. We found this happened in the past. Don't fine us too much or don't.
Yeah, it's important to point out it was a self-referral.
Yes, so that's it. So that's them.
Chris Mason.
Yeah. So I'm not even worried about it because I'm sure that they've got enough money behind them or enough solicitors to wangle their way out of or come to some sort of deal. Yeah, well, if you look at all the teams, or especially all the successful teams in Europe, that they've all pushed the boundaries of the laws. Yeah. They've all done it. If you look years ago, what was it with Real Madrid, didn't they? Weren't they skinned and flogged off their bloody training ground or something, and the government bought it? But it's loads of
£400 million for a training ground, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
So, United are absolutely pure. United are whiter than the driven snow. They have had chief executives in the past who like to look under ladies' toilets and things like that. And yes, a number of crooked owners, but they've always acted properly when it comes to these matters. If you are enjoying this ramble of four old codgers talking about how football was better before you were born, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, Cream of Manchester. You'll find us, and you'll find us on all the socials one way or another. You can get in touch with us at creamofmanchester18@gmail.com. That's creamofmanchester18@gmail.com. But we are trying to provide a podcast for what the football industry calls legacy fans, because there aren't too many of them that combine this level of knowledge and cynicism and really erratic releasing of podcasts. In saying that, we have some sad news to bring you because talking of supporters who've put many, many years in, you have an announcement, Andy.
Yeah, very sad news reached me this morning. Steve Brindley, better known as Barney, must be known to hundreds, if not thousands of people. He was a steward at United, so people have known him from working in the SAF stand for years. Latterly, when United started taking stewards to the away matches, Barney could be seen there as well. You'd see him at the Munich memorials over in Germany. You'd see him in the Nag's Head. You'd see him in various pubs, get-together do's, and very sadly, he passed away this morning. So I'd like to pass our condolences on to his family. Very sad news.
Yeah, indeed. Well said. I think whenever something like this happens, you always used to think in the old days, well, part of our job as supporters has been bringing in new generations of supporters, bringing in your own kids through who kind of, for want of a better word, replace the old guard, and that's how football's meant to be passed down. And we're all in a strange situation now because, as we've been discussing, the football industry basically hates us that much that you sometimes don't know whether it's a good thing to pass it on to your kids. It must be the same at Chelsea, as it Coomsey. People must be feeling the same as that.
It is. I've got two older kids in their late 20s. Obviously, both brought up. They were told they could support who they want, but I'd only be taking them to the bridge. Fantastic. They were both in Poland with me in May for the Conference League final. I've got a 11-year-old up here who's Chelsea, but I wouldn't say he's that heavily into football. I'm happy to say that he goes to school and he stands the corner and he's a Chelsea fan, but he's not as into it as and I'm in a way I'm a little bit glad because of the way it's going nowadays. You know, the older two kids who come fairly regularly. My daughter lives in London, so any spares or whatever, she's down, or she'd have my season ticket if I couldn't make it. And my other lad's down in Somerset, so he's up whatever games. But yeah, it's. I don't think I wish it on him in today's footballing arena. I don't know, which is really bad to say because, like you said, you're thinking, oh yeah, we went here, and it's great when your kids go down. They know all your pals. They've been brought up. Oh, remember when you were 4 or 5 and you were coming? It's not the same. So I took me 28-year-old, I think, when he was, I think he was 2. And at 2 years old, he sat there. Was it 90? Yeah, he was 2. And he sat there and watched the whole game. Like the lads go, like, how old's your son? So he's like 2. And he was like, and we got beat by Southampton on New Year's Day. And he's like, that wasn't meant to happen, Daddy, was it? But he just sat and took it all in. And you're going like, oh, fantastic, I've done my job there. That's what I'm thinking. At 10, I wasn't like that.
Coomsey, you've been a Chelsea fan obviously for many years, and I know when I was a younger lad, Chelsea had a fantastic record at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Generally, when United had a great side from between like 1993 to say 2013, United, I sometimes felt United were not allowed to beat Chelsea at Old Trafford. What were your memories of being with Chelsea at Old Trafford, both for good and bad, and for on and off the pitch as well?
Yeah, it was some great memories because you got to think we were a poor team. We're up and down second division, back up to the first division. So playing United were a great team then. They had some great players. So I think the first game I remember with Kerry Dixon, I think it was that 86, I think, something like that. We'd won I don't know if it was just after we won the full members cup final against City, which was, in my day and age, it was a big thing. The first time I'd seen Chelsea at Wembley was against City in the full members cup. Then we went to United. Obviously, it was a big day out because United was such a good team. And then, to beat them with Kerry Dixon. And then I think we also beat them. I beat you the same season, I think, or must have the next season was when Tony Godden was in goal for us and saved 2 penalties. Yeah.
That's
And
also Gordon Strachan.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, because I think Dixon scored earlier on then, so that was good. And it was always fond memories of the paddock. You were behind the goal in the paddocks and over there. A few other funny stories. I think I was in the what's the pub as you go down towards the tram and Old Trafford Cricket Ground. Is it the Trafford Arms?
In the Trafford, yeah.
In the Trafford, yeah. I got caught in the Trafford one day when Chelsea came in and smashed it up, and I was in there with a couple of United mates. It was a bit, So there was bother, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's the worst I'd sort of seen. But no, it was just great. But I also used to travel up to Old Trafford with United because I come from Somerset. Used to work with a guy who ran the Bridgewater United supporters club. A couple of mates I worked with for there, and the tight bastard wouldn't let me go on their coach, even though I worked with him. He said, "Oh, you're trouble." So I had some friends who ran who knew the guys that run the Yeovil Supporters Club, and they let us up there. So bearing in mind, my uncle's a season ticket holder at Old Trafford, and his lad rocks up for one game, Chelsea at Old Trafford, getting off the Yeovil Supporters Club. When the Bridgewater Supporters Club rocked up, and my uncle's go, "What are you doing up here?" Well, you bastards wouldn't let me on your coach, would you? That's it.
You were better off on the Yeovil one anyway, because everyone in Bridgewater smells of sellotape. I can tell you
that's it. It is cellophane. You're right.
Do.
So so that I'm trying to think of other great games or
Moscow
great
was
games
pretty
to
good,
me.
wasn't it? But there wasn't trouble between United and Chelsea in Moscow for like that I saw. It was more like Russian people.
The rain sort of dampened it.
Well, it did, but even before the game, my memory of it is that people just completely left each other alone because it was such a strange circumstance.
Yeah.
No one was daring to. You didn't want to end up in a gulag or something.
No,
so everyone was just like, "We'll just leave it. We'll just pretend. that there's no other British people there unless you physically knew them."
Yeah, no, we exactly the same. I didn't see it until we actually went to the game. Yeah, I don't think I saw, any other groups of United fans sort of thing. Yeah, it was like you kept your own little area because didn't they fly us into different airports anyway?
Yeah, and it's massive, isn't it? I mean, the coach seemed to be going. The buses back to that airport seemed to be going non-stop for 2 hours, and how are you still in Moscow? It's about the size of the UK to travel.
Yeah, it was. I've got this bit. If you go back to, I think was one of your questions. Did I or how I hated United or what games did I hate United? I think way before that, obviously, was the '94 Cup final. But and you've got to also remember that. Living down in Somerset, Liverpool United, by way of the best two support, they've got 52 seaters going up every week and that sort of thing. But working in a factory, most people supported United or Liverpool had never been in their lives. So that sort of got your goat a bit, and you didn't. There wasn't very many people you could have a proper football conversation with people that actually gone and been there. Yeah. So that was my sort of dislike of United, and then. Obviously, I even hated you before you got to the final because you beat Oldham. Was it Mark Hughes in the last minute or something like that? Because we'd beat Luton the day before, and thinking like, come on, Oldham, do us a favour. We might have a chance in this. But then that was a crazy year. I've got a feeling we were the only team to beat you. Yeah, we beat you home and away with Gavin Peacock. Yeah. So that was really the first time. Obviously, again, the rain must have a, if you're going to kick a man when he's down, it pissed down in '94, pissed down in 2008. It was.
Peacock
so yeah, that was probably
the first half of that game as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, well, that was it. That was the worst thing. Getting back home, and everyone's, poor Chelsea. Oh, if Peacock had put that one in, and that doesn't help, does it? So, and then another game that was really disappointing was the '96 semi-final as well, where Ruud Gullit scored first, and was it Beckham and Cantona? Or I'm not sure who scored.
Yeah, I remember Cantona clearing off the line.
Cantona off the line, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the. Yeah. So that was a real disappointment because you thought, well, this is it now. This is our year.
If your experience though down there was all sort of plastic United fans, you've moved up here now, haven't you? So it must have,
well, this was
been like a culture shock. Has it been kind of like? Are they different from what you kind of expect?
Totally different because when I moved up here, as you said before, the wife's a Scouser, best friend's a Scouser, whose husband is a United season ticket holder. So when I first moved up here, I'd sort of met him. I think he thought I was going to be some sort of pearly king, and all that when I'm from Somerset, mate,
Well, I was disappointed when you came on the field, if I'm honest.
Anyway, I think I've met him once or twice. And it was a game that Forlan scored at the League Cup. Yeah. So I'd gone to the game and I was lucky when I moved up here, I knew the guy, Malcolm Cole, run the Chelsea Northwest. So I'd already knew him. So I'm on the phone to him. How'd you travel down? Do you have a coach, minibus, whatever? So that was all right. So I think that game where we meet him for a booze, and it ended up the Ship in Salford. Right. So he said, oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. So he says, oh, you're at the Ship. So obviously I didn't know any different. He rocked up in the Ship. They're all, having a spliff at the bar, and there's Chelsea old Bill and high-vis jackets sat in cars outside. So anyway, went to the game. and obviously gutted Forlan. I think it was one of his first goals for United. Was it or something like that? It was.
Tell you
Well,
what,
yeah,
Coomsey, you must be
many.
unlucky because Coomsey scored. Forlan scored twice against Chelsea. I don't think he managed to do that against many other teams.
You know, where when you go to Europe, when you're flying into Milan, where you going? Are you catching the train from here? And it's all, you know, and that started a really good friendship. And in fact, I was in when we won the league the second time in 2006, back to back. I was on a bloody stag weekend in Hamburg with 5 United season ticket holders and me, and for the watching the game where Joey Cole scored, and yeah, fair shout to them. They got the champagne in, so good lads.
Oh well, it was paid back the year after, wasn't it? When you had to give a guard of honour to Dong Fangzhou.
So it sort of turned round because when I first moved up, I probably had more of affinity with your noisy neighbours because they were as crap as us, you know, up and down yo-yo teams sort of thing. But then they've changed unbelievably, you know. Now they're just shake me head, but yeah, that's how I've moved. Been up here 22 years now. So.
Brilliant. We are almost at the half-hour mark. Any other business, gents?
Can't think of anything.
Well, it just falls to me then to say, once again, do get in touch with us if you want to. Cream of Manchester 1878 at gmail.com, and you will find us, Cream of Manchester, on all the socials. Like and subscribe on YouTube, please. Trying to grow our membership. And we're big indebted to Coomsey for joining us this week. Really appreciate it. We're all off now to reminisce about Mark Hughes, Mickey Thomas and Seba Veron. See you on the other side of the shitstorm of United's inevitable latest defeat. Mind the trams.